many shots are we actually going to be doing? Has it been broken down,
Yeah.
all of the wedding stuff?
Yes.
Best known for starring in detective shows Scott and Bailey, and with roles in dramas like Doctor Who and Cranford, Lesley Sharp's varied stage, screen and TV work has earned her a reputation as an accomplished and versatile actress. Lesley was born in Manchester in 1960 and adopted when she was just 6 weeks old.
My adoptive mum suffered throughout my childhood with depression. So my relationship with her was tricky because there was a degree of unreliability about whether or not she was going to be well, and if she was well, how long that was going to last. She died when I was 15, so it was me and my adoptive father, Jack, and I absolutely adored him. I worshipped him. Very, very calm and very sort of clear. So he was kind of like this brilliant port in a storm.
In 1990, Lesley traced her biological mother, using the limited information that her adoptive parents had been given.
This is my birth certificate. My name at birth was Karen. My mother's name is Elsie Makinson. When I made contact with my mum, I was really nervous. You don't know who you're going to meet. You don't know who you're going to find. You've got no idea at all. It's scary. It's really scary. That's from my mum. There she is, looking quite neat. What she did tell me was that she had an affair with a man that she was working with, but the problem was that he was married and he had children. And then she got pregnant by accident, and they decided that it would be for the best if the baby was given up for adoption. And she breastfed me right up until the moment that she handed me over, and it was pretty harsh. She took these are the little baby booties that I was wearing. The last time she ever held me in her arms as a baby, she took these off my feet and kept them. My Auntie Margaret gave me these when my mum died. My mother told me my father's name, and it's a very unusual name, surname. His first name is Norman, but his surname is Patient. A few months after my mother and I had met, I'd bought a Sunday newspaper, and they had these two old guys in Didsbury, in Manchester, playing bowls. One of the names underneath was Norman Patient. And I looked at this picture of this man, and I saw this. And I thought, oh my God, that's my father. Is that my father? I picked up the phone, I rang my mum. I said, I think I've just seen a picture of my father in the newspaper, is it? And she had the same newspaper, and she said, yes, it is. And I looked at this picture, and I felt very angry. There he was in the sunshine, enjoying a game of bowls. And my mum had had to go through all of that on her own. So I didn't want to trace him. Now, my birth father is dead. I wonder, did he manage to keep me a secret? And if he did anybody guess? Did he have that thing about him? Did he behave or look like a man who would cheat on his wife?
Lesley is on her way to Manchester, where she was born. She wants to try to uncover the truth about her birth and adoption.
I'd like to welcome those customers who joined us at Milton Keynes Central for this Virgin train through to Manchester Piccadilly.
22 years after tracing her birth mother, Elsie, Lesley has decided to make contact with her birth father's family for the first time. She's used an adoption charity to get hold of her original adoption file.
So this is my adoption file with various forms in it. The first one is an application form to the Adoption Society. Full name and registration number of child's parents. So baby's mother, Elsie Makinson, baby's father, Norman Patient, and then in brackets next to his name, married. Has either parent any other children? Father, one boy, one girl. Does the father consent to the adoption? Yes. If not married to the mother, is he liable to contribute to child's maintenance? There's a Y that's been crossed out, and then no. Why is the child offered for adoption? And written here is for financial reasons and best for the baby. There you are. It's kind of weird thinking that all these years that I've been alive, that there's been a half-brother and a half-sister out there somewhere, and it's only kind of now that, hopefully, that we're going to meet. And I really hope that having found out that I exist hasn't been too traumatic for them. I really hope that they're not angry with me.
But before Lesley finally meets her half-brother and sister, she wants to find out more about her father. She's going to visit her mother's sisters, Margaret and Nancy, to see what they can tell her about the circumstances that led to her adoption. She first met her aunts when she made contact with her mother over 2 decades ago.
I'm now on my way to see my 2 aunts, Nancy, who was a couple of years older than my mum, and Margaret, who was 15 years younger than my mum. I'm really interested to know whether or not they've got any information about my father, Norman. I mean, I know that my mum felt very passionate about him. It'd be nice to see if Nancy's got anything to say about that. Yeah, it'd be nice to see them.
Hello.
Hello.
How nice to see you.
Oh.
Lovely.
Oh. Hello, Margaret.
Hello, darling.
Hello to see you.
So this is my favourite photograph of her. Nancy tells me she was about 17.
Yeah.
And I love that.
Lovely. So, ladies, do you remember Mum coming home and talking to you about the fact that she was pregnant and telling you what had happened?
Yes.
So, can you tell me about that?
Well, I was living at my nana's at the time, and she came round to tell me that she was pregnant. She said, and I can't tell my mum. She said, will you break it to her for me? And I did.
What did my grandmother do?
Oh, she was shocked at first. She was really shocked. But my mum stood by her all the way through. But nobody knew, only the immediate family.
Right.
I mean, when it all actually started...
Do you remember what happened?
I remember being left out. I remember not being talked to. I remember walking in rooms and people stopping, speaking, because it was like, to a certain extent, like I didn't exist. And I realise now that they weren't going to discuss it with a 12-year-old.
Right.
So I knew things were going on, and I knew that everybody was upset, especially Elsie. When she did go out, Nancy was telling me that she had to wear a big coat and sneak round the back avenues so the neighbours wouldn't see her.
At that time, it was unheard of, really, you know, to have a child out of marriage.
Do you think that she had any expectation or hope while she was pregnant that Norman might come good in terms of...
I didn't get that impression myself. Elsie had no job and she had no support of him.
Did she ask him for money? Do you know?
No.
And he didn't offer any?
No. No. I mean, he'd never been in touch or supported her, else she wouldn't have given you away. She wouldn't. She wouldn't have had you adopted, I know. I can vouch for that. And then, you know, when you weren't going to be kept, she went to the mother and baby home.
For me, it was more about when she'd actually given you up and she came back home. Right. And that's when we would talk.
Right.
And that's when that was really sad time and distressing time. And she was upstairs and I could hear her crying. So I went upstairs and asked her where the baby was.
Oh dear.
And
did she tell you?
She told me, yeah, that she'd had the baby and she'd had to give it up. That was really sad time. She was very, very distressed.
Crying. Oh, it was really, really heartbreaking. But you were never off our minds.
Yes, every year on your birthday, out came the booties. And each year we'd wonder where you are and what you were doing and how you were growing up. And I think then when you did finally get in touch...
she always had that guilt feeling
I think that
of
was
what she'd done.
I know, I did feel that sometimes her guilt about it, which I always thought was so not what she should have felt at all.
No.
It grieved me that she felt so guilty.
And I think it's a shame that she found it so difficult because she'd got an opportunity to have such a great experience with you in her life. But I think that was a bit too hard for her to deal with.
Very hard. And did
She's always there.
Did she ever see Norman again after that?
No, not to my knowledge, she didn't know.
No, but I did.
No.
You did? Did you? You saw him?
I worked for him. I worked as his secretary for about 18 months, but I didn't know he was your father.
When did you find out that it was
Years
him?
and years later.
So she didn't tell you that?
I didn't know.
But she knew that you were working for him and...
This
and
is
he
the
must
bit
have
that I
known.
can't figure out, and he must have known, but I didn't know.
My God, Margaret, what
And
was he like?
He was a very nice man.
So you liked him?
Yeah.
Goodness me. What are the chances of that? I have no more understanding about my father and what his feelings were about my mother and what he was doing. I'm absolutely no clearer than that, and I'm actually slightly nervous about meeting Doris and Tommy now, because by the sounds of things, what happened with my mother was something that he kept secret, and he went back to his life, and he went back to his marriage, and he went back to his children and maybe grandchildren, who knows. And he carried that secret that he, you know, that he didn't tell them about.
Lesley is on her way to meet her half-brother, Tommy, and half-sister, Doris, for the first time.
We're in an area of Manchester that I've never been in before, and we've just driven past where Tommy and Doris, my half-brother and sister, are. And I'm going to go now and meet them. And actually, I feel a bit weird about it, and I feel vulnerable about it, and I feel vulnerable about meeting them. I think it's really important. My initial meeting with them should be off camera. So I shall see you after I've said hello.
After making their introductions, Lesley and her new family are happy to continue talking on camera.
So, are you okay?
Yes,
Yeah,
we're fine.
yeah, sound.
Yeah, we are fine now. It was a shock.
Yeah.
It was, yeah, because I can never understand why my dad never wanted us to know. Well, I suppose I can understand because he didn't want my mother to know. But in later years, why didn't he tell us? You know, I just can't understand that. I think for him not to have anything to do with you, I thought was out of character. It wasn't like him. Yeah.
If he'd have told me, you know, on the quiet when we used to go out for a pint, it wouldn't have bothered me, you know. I'd have loved to have met you earlier if he'd have told me.
Yeah.
But unfortunately,
He never,
he didn't.
never spoke to any of us about it.
How old were you when I was born, do you know?
I was 20.
And what about you, Doris?
I
Were
was,
you at home?
well, I was married then.
Oh, when
I
did
was
you get married?
I
How
was
old were you?
21
When you
I
got married?
in 1960.
Right.
That's me in February 1960. And my dad giving me away.
That's you getting married.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sweet photograph.
When I got married, I was expecting Stephen.
Was that the reason that you got
Yes,
married?
yes.
So you told your parents
Yes.
that? And what happened when you told?
My dad went absolutely crazy.
He went bloody spec. He played up hell.
Yeah.
But everything turned out all right, as they do in the end.
What date in February?
The 27th.
Elsie would have been at
5 weeks.
the mother and baby home.
They had a conscience that day, I don't know. You know.
Wow.
Yeah.
February.
Yeah, and Stephen was born in the August.
And is that Norman?
That's Norman.
That's Norman.
That's
Grandad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's Dad or Norman. Whatever.
Yeah.
That's weird. That's and you know I kind of you know but there he is being a granddad and not a dad.
Yeah.
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 But do you know what? I mean it's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It must. I'm not saying hurt you, but it must do a little.
Yeah.
Deep down.
Well, I don't.
That was when he stopped his tram or trolley bus.
Okay, so this is from the Deputy General Manager and Traffic Superintendent to driver patient.
Yeah.
I have received a report that about 8:45 a.m. on the 18th instant, you were observed to leave your bus and go to the assistance of an elderly blind man who had difficulty in crossing the road. This action on your part was seen and appreciated. 19th of September 1947. Good
Yeah.
for him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's brilliant. One of the big things about meeting you and maybe seeing photographs and stuff was obviously to do with physical resemblance
Yeah.
because, you know, obviously this nose is big.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, you know, you kind of go,
well,
well, I
I'm not
wonder,
behind. I'm not behind the
Yeah.
bush.
No, yours is a good size
Well,
as
we
well,
got-
but it's the shape too,
Yeah,
and I
but
think because
Yours
you're
is like mine. It bends a bit. But now you hear sis.
Sorry, you've come in contact.
You'll leave me and say, what the bloody hell happened? You know.
my father was this blank figure who basically left my mum, did a runner. He had this thing about illegitimacy. It obviously kind of triggered something. So my mother getting pregnant with me, that was it. But actually, you know, there's this whole picture of him as this guy who stopped trams for blind people, was very involved with his grandchildren. You know, there's a proper picture that I've been given of a human being, rather than this kind of two-dimensional and slightly bad guy that he, you know, maybe has been in my head. The other thing is the surname. This surname, Patient, which is a really unusual name, and I've always wondered where it has come from. Tommy told me that he'd received a letter in the 90s from a guy called John Patient who told him about the Patient family in Great Eastern in Essex, so I'd really be keen on finding out more about that.
Having reconnected with her birth father's family, Lesley wants to dig deeper into the patient roots. She's travelled 170 miles south to the county of Essex.
Oh, pretty. It's pretty round here. Isn't it beautiful? Everything so far has been so northern and so Manchester-centric. So it's lovely to be in a completely different landscape.
John Patient is a distant cousin of Lesley's. He spent more than a decade exploring the family genealogy.
Hello.
Hello, Lesley.
Are you John?
I'm John.
How do you do?
Very nice to meet you.
Very nice to meet you
Very
too.
nice.
Leslie and John's first common ancestor is their great-great-grandfather, Charles Patient.
So we've drawn up a little chart here, and this shows
Norman.
your father, Norman,
Yep. Thomas, my
your
grandfather.
grandfather.
Thomas again, my great-grandfather.
Grandfather, that's
And then Charles Patient,
That's
my
right.
great-great-grandfather.
This is the first document.
Marriages. 1847.
Mm-hmm.
So, Charles Patient and Hannah Bush. Residents, both of them Tilty.
That's correct.
So they were married in the parish church. That's
here.
this.
So they would have walked down this very aisle
Wow.
in front of this lovely surroundings.
Oh.
So I'm going to show you another document here.
Oh, right. So this is baptisms in the parish of Tilty. Right, and I can't see Patient, but what I can see is Hannah Bush. And that's William, son of Hannah Bush. Hang on a sec. She's down here, quality trade or profession is single woman.
Yes, I think you've...
Hang on. October the 14th. They got married on October the 16th.
That's right.
So this child was baptised 2 days before Hannah walked up this aisle. So was William Charles' son? Or is this yet another illegitimate child that is going to have to, you know,
It's almost history repeating.
almost, John, there is this recurring theme. No, God, that.
Lesley has discovered that her great-great-grandmother, Hannah Bush, gave birth to a son called William shortly before her marriage to Charles Patient. But what isn't clear is whether Lesley's great-great-grandfather, Charles, was William's father.
Throws up more questions than answers, doesn't it?
Yep.
This is a census in 1871.
So this, again, is Great Eastern. Charles Patient.
That's right.
He's the head of the household. Hannah, his wife, 41. And then there he is, William Patient, age 25, still at home. George, 21. Thomas, his son, 17. Charles, is that
15.
15. Eliza, 13. Frederick, 11. Mary, 9. Harry, 7. Sarah, 5. And is that Walter?
Walter, that's right.
1. God, so they kept going, didn't they? 40. So Hannah was 40, and
Yes.
she was still giving birth. 10 kids. Great, good. I'm glad. I'm glad he had all his children with him. And very nice to see that that infant William, who was there when they got married, is there as their boy. What would be terrific would be to find out whether or not William was Charles's son, or whether he was Hannah's son by another man that Charles totally took to his heart and family. Great. Thanks ever so much, John.
That's okay.
Thanks ever so much, John Patient.
Cousin.
Cousin Patient. Well, it's fascinating to me that we're here in this beautiful English landscape. And, you know, it's a world away from the red brick industrial north. But in spite of that, there are these common themes that keep coming up. Women who had illegitimate children and got on with it. And then suddenly, you know, in the middle of this tale that we've heard today, there's this boy, William. Charles kept that boy there. That boy has his surname. Don't know whether it is his child or not, but he's there.
Lesley wants to find out whether William was Charles Patient's son. She has come to the nearby town of Great Dunmow to meet historian Professor Eddie Higgs.
So, what have we got here? 1871, marriage solemnised at the parish church in the parish of Great Easton in the county of Essex. October the 21st. Oh, William Bush. Oh, father's name and surname is down as Charles Patient. So right. So what would that mean then, Eddie?
Well, he seems to regard Charles Patient as his father,
yes.
But he's not using his name,
No.
so it indicates that he's probably not his biological father.
He couldn't have fudged that issue. Legally, he would have had to have put what
Legally he could have done, but he
Right.
chose not to.
Right.
So, which is further evidence that actually he's not the son of Charles Patient, I think.
Right. So how unusual was it in this day and age for a man to take on another woman's child?
That's quite an unusual thing, I think, at this period. But what is special about Charles, I think, is that not only does he wed her just after she's had a baby, but he's obviously courting her while she's heavily pregnant.
Yeah.
And yet he still does the honourable thing and marries her. But to do it in these circumstances, I think it's quite exceptional. He seems quite an interesting guy, all in all. Another document to show you, it's a census in 1911.
Okay. So there he is, Charles Patient, head of the household, aged 85.
Good age.
Yeah, great age. He was married. So he's been married for 22 years.
That's correct.
To Jane Patient, who's now 72. So she's died, Hannah. That's very sad. But that's great, isn't it? He was married to Hannah.
Yep.
It's terrible that she died. But he's gone on to have another 22 years of happy marriage with this woman, Jane.
Yeah. He was a sticker.
Yeah, he was, wasn't he? And then, blimey, there's two little kids there with different surnames. George Maybury, aged 11. William George Keane. They're not from Essex. George Maybury is from Sheffield, Yorkshire, and William Keane is from London, Custom House. One of them's 6. These two children with Charles and Jane, now aged 85 and 72, you don't see many instances like this, do you?
No, it's quite unusual, really.
Yeah.
I mean, for a 6-year-old boy to be in a house headed by an 85-year-old.
So what do you think might have happened then, Eddie? Do you think that...
I don't really know. It'd be interesting to find out how they actually ended up with him.
Yeah. Is there any way of finding out any more about these two boys and why they're there in the first place?
There may be records. From the 1870s onwards, you've got compulsory education.
Yeah.
So they'd been at school. So the best bet is perhaps to go to the Essex Record Office and look at some of the records there, which might give you an insight into who they are and why they were living with Charles Patient.
Yeah, thank you so much. It's been amazing. Thank you. There's something really noble about the way that Charles appears to have conducted his life, and wonderful about the way that he raised a family. And this boy, William, who wasn't biologically his, is happy to call him father. He's a man who loves his family, it seems, and they love him. They want to be with him. Charles was able to pick up a child out of wedlock and make it part of his family. The same's not true of Norman, because the circumstances in which, you know, he fathered a child out of wedlock, me, meant that for him that was an impossible thing to get his head around. I'm really glad that Hannah found Charles, because she could have been on her own and destitute and ended up in a workhouse. Or she could have found someone really horrible who'd not wanted to include her first baby, you know? Brilliant that she met Charles. I'd quite like to find out about those two little boys, particularly actually George Maybury, coming all the way from Yorkshire to Essex, and why they were living with my great-great-grandfather Charles.
Lesley knows that George Maybury and William George Keane must have attended school nearby. She has come to the Essex Record Office to see if there are any surviving records from the local school.
Right, so I've got a logbook for Great Eastern School. That's 1889, 1893. The 30th, several children absent with sore throats. January the 17th. Dr. Barnardo children being called in. Monday, only fair attendances. The rest of the week far better except Friday. Admitted 10 children, 6 boys from Dr. Barnardo's home in London. Barnardo children were orphans, and from what I've picked up, Great Eastern was a place where Barnardo sent their kids. July the 13th, attendance is about the same as last week. Several of the eldest children in the upper class coming badly. 3 more of Dr. Barnardo's boys left for Canada. 1905. 5 Barnardo's boys have been admitted. So maybe George Maybury and William George were Dr. Barnardo's children who got taken in by Charles. If Charles' patient did take on Barnardo boys when they were tiny, he'd have been very old. So that's an incredibly generous thing to do. He obviously loved children, and he was obviously a really lovely man. Really lovely.
Dr. Thomas Barnardo came from Dublin to London in 1866 and found a city struggling to cope with the impact of the Industrial Revolution. In just 50 years, London's population had doubled in size. Thousands of children were living in terrible poverty, and 1 in 5 died before their 5th birthday. An evangelical Christian, Barnardo was so appalled by what he saw, he decided to dedicate his life to rescuing destitute children. In 1870, he opened his first children's home. By the time Barnardo died in 1905, his charity ran 96 homes, caring for more than 8,500 children.
Having seen the school register, I'd like to find out a bit more about those 2 boys ending up living with my great-great-grandfather. I'd like to see if they were indeed Barnardo's boys.
Lesley has come to the Ragged School Museum in East London to meet Barnardo's archivist, Martine King.
I've had a look in the archive and in our records, and we have managed to identify both the boys as having come into Barnardo's care.
Wow.
And I can give you some limited information. This is one of our admission books. Every child that came into Barnardo's care would have been listed in this book. So as you can see, first of all, we have George Maybury. who was admitted to Barnardo's at the age of 4. Okay. So,
on the 1st of May, 1903.
yes, that's when he came into Barnardo's care. Okay. This is William.
William George Keane. This next column is boarded out, and I see near George here, if you go along, that it says he went to Tilty,
Yes.
which absolutely makes sense in terms of what I found out about him. So he went there on the 28th of July, 1903. George Maybury, on the census, was 11, but age 4 in there. So he must have been with Charles for a while, well, 7 years.
Which it would have been quite common for a child to remain with a foster carer for most of their childhood.
But isn't it unusual that on that census there's those 2 very young children with this? I mean, he's an old man. I mean, even by today's standards, he's old.
Barnardo's were quite keen when they recruited foster carers to take older couples because they felt that their life experience was greater.
Right.
And they'd already looked after their own children.
Yeah.
And seen their own children go off into the world.
So they had the time,
so
the
they
patience.
had the time and the patience to nurture these children.
Dr. Barnardo began his system of boarding out, or fostering, in 1887. This practice of sending children from care homes in the cities to be brought up by families living in the country became central to Barnardo's philosophy. By the time Charles Patient was fostering George and William, thousands of children were boarded out all over the country.
This book that I wanted to show you,
Night and Day.
yeah, this is one of our Barnardo publications. This one's from 1888.
And this is the original,
This is the original book, yeah. And here, Barnardo talks about how the foster carers were employed. As you can see, we have an undertaking. So this would have been the document that would have been sent to your great-great-grandfather. You want to?
Yeah. So this is an undertaking by the foster parent for the boarding out of the child. In consideration of my receiving the sum of 5 shillings per week for the lodging, maintenance, washing, school fees, clothing and care of such child, do hereby undertake that the said child shall be brought up carefully, kindly, that's nice, and in all respects as one of my own family. The foster parent should be Christian people belonging to the labouring class, should be fond of children and should have an assured income from other sources. To restore the said child to any person sent by Dr. Barnardo to receive it on getting 1 fortnight's notice of removal or equivalent payment. Oh, so you had a fortnight if you had a child. That must have been hard if you'd bonded. What I would be interested to know is what happened to those 2 boys.
Unfortunately, because you're not directly descended from them, I can't give you their personal information.
But all of that information would have been recorded.
Yes.
I saw in the school records that some of the children, some of the Barnardo's children, went to Canada. How would it be possible to find out whether or not that's what happened to William and George?
If you want to look further into this, then there are genealogy sites where you can look at passenger sailing lists to find out if they were migrated.
Right. Barnardo didn't just send children willy-nilly to places, you know. There were these stringent checks and measures that were taken before children were placed with families. Really strong criterion, and Charles fitted the bill. So I have high hopes that Charles was a warm and loving man.
Lesley is searching ship's passenger lists. She begins with William George Keane.
Says 0 good matches. Okay, so I will see if there's anything for Mr. Maybury. George Maybury and his birth year. 1900. Oh, wow. George, there he is. Birth about 1900. Departure, Liverpool, England. So, let's have a look. Here we are. So he was on the Tunisian search the ship, view the Tunisian in the Passion. So I can have a look at this original record here. Wow. He's the oldest one there by the look of it, age 12. The rest of them are all 8, 9, 10 and 11. Goodness. This is a kiddie transportation ship. I wonder if he's still got family living in Canada. George may well have spoken at length about his early life, so there may well be some information about Charles. And who knows what these children had with them when they left, whether they were given something precious. You know, like that pair of booties that I showed you on that very first day that Elsie kept of mine, you know. It would be amazing to find that out.
Lesley has discovered that at the age of 12, George Maybury was taken from her great-great-grandfather's home and sent halfway across the world to Canada. George was one of thousands of children that Dr. Barnardo transported from his homes and foster families in England to the colonies. To cope with the huge numbers of children being shipped abroad, Barnardo's ran a special train service from London to the docks at Liverpool. From here, the children embarked onto ships. The majority was sent across the Atlantic to Canada. To try to understand why Charles and his foster son were separated, Lesley has come to Liverpool, the city George sailed from in 1912, to meet historian Professor Stephen Constantine.
What you get, of course, is a lot of these kinds of images. The children here clearly are all in a form of uniform. This is one of the parties that will be sent with some overseer from Barnardo to see that they are cared for on the way. They would arrive in Canada and then be distributed from one space to their futures.
Can't even sit up straight.
And you look at their little faces. So this is processing them for a better future.
And then this is
Dr. Barnardo often came to see them off. He did this quite regularly, seeing his parties go. And here is another one.
Oh, God. Look at him, just a baby.
But I think you'd like this one as well. This is 1904. This is an original Barnardo's document.
Goodness,
it's called A National Debt. And
this is an original
yes,
document?
That's right. But I think this is the particularly interesting bit. Some results already attained. Look on this picture.
Look at this lad, turned out on the streets by a cruel and drunken stepmother. And then here we go. The pariah of the streets has now become a good-looking, hard-working young man with a considerable and increasing balance at the bank. What is better still, he's found week by week engaged in Sunday school work, telling to others the secret which has so changed his own life.
A total of around 80,000 children are going to Canada before the First World War. So it's worth thinking about George's own experience. He'd almost certainly be sent to work on a farm.
Right.
Farmers themselves are keen to get hold of the children. They are cheap labour. Because they're young, their wages will be low, and therefore they become a useful asset. And then to be placed with people who are not your parents, who are new adults, and then to be told that this is your role.
I'd really love to be able to find out more about what happened to George. I'd love to find out where he went. I hope that he went somewhere where there was kindness shown to him.
Well, I think I'm able to help you on this. I've been able to trace through online records, so I've not made the contact personally, but online records say that there is a George Maybury, grandson of your George Maybury, being located.
Oh, that number's in Canada?
Yes.
Wow.
So George has descendants living in Canada, and there you have a contact number for him.
Wow. I wonder if George's grandson knows about my great-great-grandfather.
That would be interesting.
That would be interesting, and it would be very interesting for a Maybury to meet
it would.
a patient again
It would. I
after
think
all
that
these
would be.
years. You know, I was adopted, and my great-great-grandfather, Charles Patient, is that what he did for George Maybury is what my adoptive parents did for me.
Right.
So,
I
so
can
there
understand
you are.
very strongly why you would want to know more.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Good luck. Good
Thank
hunting.
you. Thank you.
George Maybury speaking.
Oh, hello, George Maybury. My name's Lesley Sharp. I'm calling you because my great-great-grandfather was called Charles Patient, and that I believe your grandfather, also George Maybury, stayed with him for a while. I mean, this is a long time ago. It's like 1911.
Yes, yeah, I am aware of that from the information we have, yes.
Well, I'd be really delighted if you would feel able to meet me and maybe talk to me about George.
Well, certainly I know from our family records we do have some documentation of the time and some pictures from his time before he came to Canada. So absolutely, if you're thinking of a trip to come to Canada to discuss this further, I would more than welcome the opportunity to share with you what we have where George was involved with your family.
Oh, that would be brilliant. I'm really looking forward to meeting you. So I'll see you in a couple of days.
That'll be great. I look forward to it.
Okay, take care, George.
Thank you very much, Lesley.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye now.
It would be amazing to go and meet George Maybury and see if George Maybury, who was looked after by Charles Patient, ever told him any stories about what happened to him and about how he felt about going to Canada, and if George Maybury Jr. has any recollections about his grandfather's experience in Tilty. I mean, what I hope it might be possible to find out from George is that George Sr. had a happy experience.
"100 years after her great-great-grandfather and his foster son, George, were separated, Lesley has followed George's trail to Toronto to meet his grandson, George Maybury Jr.
Hi, Lesley.
Hello, George.
Hi, George Maybury.
How do you do?
Nice to meet you.
Really nice to meet you too.
Yes. Thank you for coming all the way over.
George is taking Lesley to the town where his grandfather was sent to work after he arrived in Canada.
We're down in area of southwestern Ontario now. We're on our way today to Dresden, Ontario, and Dresden is one of the little communities that has the farms that George was sent to. George coming over from what he experienced beforehand was a definite sense of family, and coming out to something like this would have to feel fairly isolated.
As he is a direct descendant, Barnardos have agreed to give George Maybury Jr. all the information they have about his grandfather, including a record of George's admission in 1904.
We can start off at a time when George first came into the Barnardo orphanage. And this is a picture taken of him on the day that he was taken in by Barnardos, the day that he was dropped off.
Poor little thing, he looks such a scrap.
He does, doesn't he? So you're not looking like a very happy day for him at that particular point.
He really doesn't, and he doesn't look particularly well fed. And he doesn't look as if he's in the cleanest of clothes.
And this is something we've had blown up with George.
Height, 2'11". Chest measurement, 19 inches. Weight, 34 pounds. Right internal squint. Mother died in childbirth, September 1901. Children have since been maintained by the father's mother, who was about to send them to the workhouse. William, aged 10, Elsie, aged 7, and George, aged 4. Oh, my goodness. The children have often been short of food and are destitute.
And this is the actual intake photo of the 3 children.
The Maybury group. God. How did you feel when you first saw that photo?
It's a very haunting picture,
Isn't it?
for me to look at that. These are children. There's no smiles on their faces. There's no hope. It's just 3 children and being dropped off someplace to go to a completely unknown future. I mean, that's, you know, the sister Elsie, the look on her face and, you know, her matted hair is just rings of heartbreaking.
Isn't it?
Yeah.
I tell you what, though, George, the thing that does give me sort of a bit of comfort about this picture is the way that she's leaning into baby George. There's a bit of affection there, and he's leaning his cheek on her head.
Mm-hmm.
There's a bit of comfort to be had from his older sister,
Yeah.
if nowhere else in the world.
Very good
Thank
observation.
Goodness.
Yes, exactly.
George has also found 2 photos of his grandfather that were taken while he was living with Lesley's great-great-grandfather in Essex.
While he was with your great-grandfather, they arranged to have some pictures taken of George. These are a few years later, taken in Dunmow, and showing how much he's come along.
Oh, look at him. They got him spectacles.
They did get him some spectacles, odd little spectacles. I have them here.
That's...
So we've kept these in our family a long, long time.
Goodness me, look at that.
So those are over 100 years old.
And that was something that Charles obviously did for him.
Absolutely. This is all
Got
in the
sorted
care of
for
Charles.
him, yeah. Yeah. I mean, I know there's a difference in age, but there's just something about the self-possession of this boy in this photograph, and the way that he's looking straight down the lens there, that there's an air of confidence and...
It was more than just a boarding out here. I think there was a family that developed from this. I do know that, you know, from time to time, Barnardo's also went to the foster parents, to their location, and they would do a site visit to find out how things were going. And this here, this would have been shortly before George was sent to Canada, and this was a site visit to your ancestors.
Oh, okay. So he was visited on February the 22nd, 1912. Clothing, good stock. School attendance, good. George is thin and small for his age, but reported quite healthy and well. Boys seem well looked after and cared for. Has been a kindly home. That's nice to see written down, because they don't go, I mean, these documents and this time doesn't go in for sentimentality. So that one sentence actually has a whole story within it, but it's divine that it's written there. Has been a kindly home. Good. I'm really glad.
And it's a good thing he met your family.
Yeah.
Because your family is obviously key to what he became of. And that came from Charles and Jane. Nobody else. His family, his mother and father, would have been your family. That's all he knew.
Who did George marry? Your granny? Who was your granny?
Mary.
Mary.
Mary Martha Jane, from the final farm Barnardo's placed him on. And he actually fell in love with the farmer's daughter and ended up marrying the farmer's daughter in a small community here in Ontario.
That's wonderful. You know, my great-great-grandfather, Charles, seemed to me to be a man who loved children, who loved the idea of family. And obviously, you know, little George, who wasn't wanted, was welcomed with open arms because he still had a bit left.
Something more to
that
give.
he wanted to give, which is lovely. I'm very glad that George was on the receiving end of that. There was something in me that very much wanted to find out where I was from, you know, who these people were, Elsie and Norman. I made a decision on my own to find my mother. The thing about finding my birth father was potentially something else because he had this other family. My great-great-grandfather, Charles Patient, was a delightful character. His imperative was to make a family, and the ties that he forged, he was very faithful to. And Charles's family included taking on board a child that wasn't his. I feel an incredible warmth towards him, and sort of feel very proud actually that, you know, I'm of him, that I'm from someone with that generosity of spirit. That's wonderful. One of the things I found most awkward is referring to Norman as my father. Genetically, he is, but my feeling about who my father is not Norman. It was my dad. It was Jack. He was my dad. And even though Jack's dead, I'd hate him to think that in any way I was betraying that, because he was my dad. Depending on who you're adopted by, I think it can have a profound effect on your life, for good or bad. And I got very lucky. And I think George did too.